Welcome, everybody, back to On the DL with Dara and Linds. I'm Dara,
And I'm Linds.
and we've been talking offline for half an hour. So we decided to hit record, and here we go. Happy Year of the Snake, which
Yes.
is the
Oh,
day that we're recording this on, which Lindsay just brought up to me. This is the year of abundance. This is the year of transformation, of shedding. And it also, the day we're recording this, is the new moon in Aquarius.
oh, is it the new moon today?
Hmm.
Fuck yeah, I can't wait to go camping.
It's so dark.
So dark, but there's so many stars.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm so
But
excited.
my lovely girl here just shared some exciting news. Do you want to broadcast it to the 10 people who might listen to this?
Yeah,
The 100 million people who listen.
yes. I mean, there's going to be that many at some point, but
At some point, yes.
um yeah, so I made a big girl decision yesterday to start Kundalini training. So I signed up last night.
I'm so excited. We're
And
bringing it to the West.
yeah, and
Trauma
like
informed is the best.
and today just so happens to be the start of it, and it just so happens to be the year of the snake, which I was like, that's fucking perfect. Like
Hmm.
being Kundalini is the snake, for those of you that may or may not know. It's the snake that runs up your spine, if you will. And yeah, I just felt like really deeply called to this since you signed up for it. What, it's been over a year. I think it was
Hmm.
end of 23 when you signed up.
No,
And
I signed up the day classes started.
oh, so same. I
Yeah.
literally, it was like 10 o'clock last night. I'm like sitting in my bed with heart in hand, like, do I just wait till tomorrow? And my guys are like, just do it. I'm like,
Just do
okay.
it now. Yeah, I
Um,
think you were
I was at your
here.
house. Yeah, I was literally, I was standing by you and you were like, I just signed up for Kundalini. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you were like sitting in the witch room.
Yep.
And I had a call literally an hour before the first class started. And so I signed up, I paid in full, which I never do that. And I
Mhm.
literally sat down and started class one.
It's so crazy, dude. You know what's funny? I was thinking about it yesterday and I'm like, I always have like thought, and the reason why like I was hitting so much resistance was like, when am I going to use this? You know what I mean? And but it's like I know, and then I'm like, Linz, you have
Every day.
Kundalini Kriyas floating in your environment at all times. Like,
Yeah.
but I realized that yes, I'm going to use this in my practice, in my business, and whatever else unfolds with retreats and things like that. But I'm doing this for me.
Hmm.
And I think like that was huge for me because everything I've always done like for other people. And this was like the one thing where I was like, no, like at the end of the day, like I'm doing this for me. And I'm so excited to see like the transformation from like when I start to afterwards. Like I've seen transformation even through like the Kriyas that you and Jenny have taught me. And like
Hmm.
just the things that I've learned from being around it and being surrounded by it for like the last year. I don't know. It's just like I
It
don't, there's
changed
like,
me so much. you saw, I had so much
yeah,
resistance last year in the class and got really far
yep,
behind. And I was like, I'm finishing this. And it was a really hard struggle. And it totally deconstructed the way I learn.
yeah,
And it also helped me push against my, what I call like a laziness, but like I have a really hard time getting things done when there's too much stuff to do. I get
yeah.
overwhelmed. And it helped me like, I was like, no, this is my soul's calling. Like I
Hmm.
just small bites at a time
Yeah.
and got to it. I'll be your student
Yeah, I was
for your
super
final.
excited. It's so I was like thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, how am I? Because there was a piece of me that like froze. I was like, dude, how am I gonna do all of this being on the road like this? And they were like, in the questionnaire, they're like, is there anything pertinent that you think we should know? And I was like, I am a nomad and I travel a lot.
Yeah.
So like, but I think that's the beauty of like now, like it's one of the big things that's been coming through for me, and I'm curious how it really resonates for you, but like because I know you've been super busy, like full booked calendar, and like I've kind of been like teetering on it, like I feel like I'm
Hmm.
kind of like creeping. I can feel it like creeping up, like it's about to get really,
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
yeah, literally. Which can segue into our next bit. But yeah, I feel like it creeping up, like in the best way possible. Like it's not
Yeah.
bad, but I'm like, I have mentorship stuff. I have our
Hmm.
shamanic stuff. Now I have Kundalini stuff. And I'm like, okay, now I have to create structure. Like it's
Yeah.
all of these things are forcing me to create structure so that I can do the things. But
Hmm.
also still have time for me because that's like my huge priority, especially being on the road. I'm like, no, I still want to be able to get out in nature whenever the fuck I want. Like, I don't want to have to be on like a hard and fast
Time.
schedule all the
Yeah.
time. And like, I know that came up last week. We were talking of like, yeah, I have all this freedom and I still find myself being like, I need to go to work and like go sit at a coffee shop, me on my computer or like whatever the case is. And I'm like, there's literally no rush. Like I
No.
kept finding myself rushing over like the last week and I would catch myself in the moment and be like, why am I rushing? Like I'm rushing to get out of the house to go meet someone. And I'm like, but why am I rushing? Like there's no rush. I'm the only
Yeah.
one who's rushing myself. So I'm super excited to incorporate this not only into my like practices, but just in general. I'm like excited to see how things unfold for me because like
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot about the womb space lately and like sacral energy and just I know that there's a lot there to heal. It keeps coming up like
Oh my
every
God.
single time I go to like Journey or like my past life. I'm just like, there's so much sacral stuff. I'm just like, oh,
It all ties back. I mean, so for those who know us or don't know us, so Linz and I are also embarking on a 3-year training to become core shamanic practitioners. And we journey, which is kind of like meditative, but trance-like. Like it's, how would you describe it? It's like a trance.
it is a trance. The biggest way that for me anyway is like if you like are staring at something and you know how your vision goes blurry, and like again, this could just be me and my remote viewing, if you will, but like I'll stare at something and I can see the thing, but it's kind of blurry, and it's all of a sudden like my brain, there's like another, I'm like there's like a my brain kind of goes
The
like
upper
out,
brain.
the upper brain for the upper world, kind of goes like out, and I'm able to be somewhere else. I'm able to see other things. It's just like when I'm on my lives and I'm
Like
doing my
third
like
eye.
mediumship. Yeah, it's like I'm able to like sit here and talk, which I never realized. Like how does Michelle do that? She's like having a conversation with me, but there's like there's a movie going on over here, and now I get it because it's like I can
Yeah.
be on live talking, and I look over and there's it's a like movie is playing, but
Yeah.
it's like in my third eye.
Yeah.
It's not like an actual movie, but it's like I can see it in front of me as if it's playing out like a
Yeah.
movie. Um, so yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. But it's a trance-like state, which we usually have to reach with obviously like for me it's a little bit different right now, but we use shamanic drumming is usually the
Yeah.
typical thing or a rattle.
Yeah.
But
There's a
it's a very
certain like
certain,
beat.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what is it, 3 beats a second or something? And
Something in
it's
there.
it's really fast, but
Yeah.
it's so funny. I don't know if it's the same for you. Like I've listened to it so many times now that like I know when the end is coming. I was like, oh, we're getting towards the end, guys. We got to wrap it up.
Well, yesterday. So, okay. So within this, and I think we can share this, correct? Like, so you have your directions, you have
Yes.
the upper world, which would be what we recognize as heaven, you have the middle world, which is layered upon earth, and then you have the lower world, which is within the earth.
Yep.
Please go lay down, Jack. Uh,
Feel the energies.
oh, goodness. Newfie nose on
I love that.
screen.
That was so
So
good.
going to the upper world, I have not been handling it well. My body is
Your body's like,
not.
bitch, you need to be on the ground. And you're like, no, I want to be floating above the
I
clouds.
asked my teacher last night while I was in it because I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I started noticing the drum track. I was like, I think it's gonna end. I think it's gonna end. And I only did the 12-minute one. I was like, can it be over now? Like I want to come back down. And I was just like, I could pull myself out of it, but of course, my Capricorn ass being like, we're doing it till the end.
Yeah.
We literally just ended up like sitting in the upper world till I
Just like twiddling the thumbs, like,
we
a
out
minute.
now. You can send me down now. Um, yeah. Well, my teacher told me that I was like, why is this so difficult? And the teacher was just like, because you always stay on the ground. Like you need to come back up here more. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like the thing that you, this has been the theme for the last week. The thing that you resist the most
The last
is
week.
Oh, I mean, yeah, well, it's been for me, it's been like the last like week or two has been like prominent in my face. This keeps coming up in conversations of like the thing that you resist the most is the thing that you should be going after. Like I kept hitting the resistance with the Kundalini. I'm like, why am I going to sign up for this?
Hmm.
Why am I going to sign up for this? It was like that's the thing. It's the same thing with mediumship. It was like I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to accept that I was a medium. I didn't want to fucking fuck around with all the energies. And it was like it's the thing that you're
I
resisting.
know.
Like
I think it's so funny because I'm the ghost girl. I love death and everything about it. I've been hanging out in cemeteries since I was a kid. I love ghosts. I wanted to start a ghost hunting club that got jacked by Lauren Bisson and turned it into a stupid animal club. Like, I don't want to look at fucking pictures of horses. Bitch, I want to find ghosts. Ugh.
oh, Lauren, if you're listening, that was for you.
I know. I saw her like 2 years ago in town. I was like, LOL.
My God.
Um, but yeah, I listen to ghost podcasts. My kids are into ghosts, like the whole thing. And then Lindsay's over here like, I don't like ghosts.
I don't fuck around with
I
like
don't fuck around with ghosts.
and
I'm
it's
like,
not
yeah,
even
you
like
sure?
the ghosts. It's more of like I just and I was talking about this to my friend yesterday, like I just don't entertain the shit that happened on Saturday night. I don't entertain that. Like that's not
Hmm.
allowed in my space. And I think
I feel like
that's
that's just being having boundaries.
yeah, it's just it was to learn a whole new layer of boundaries. It was like another layer of healing for me too, because I was like, where's all this fear coming from? And so like I really had to kind of
Dude, it's
sit with
been fear
myself.
season.
It really has been fear season. I mean, it makes sense with every it just makes sense.
It
It
does.
all makes sense. Um, but yeah, I just like I was like, where is all this fear coming from? And obviously, like I feel like I was picking up the fear of the situation, but I think when I was spiraling on Sunday for a little bit, I'm like, okay, I really need to just like sit with my inner child and be like, hey, you're protected. We're protected. Like nothing's gonna happen to us. I think that's like an underlying fear that I've had to like really sit with of like, I don't know. That's why I'm like, no, I'm not. I won't fuck around with the negative energies. I only work with spirits, the heart level and above. Like I'm very intentional about it. Um, but yeah, I just like I've never entertained it and I've never really truly I've never been a ghosty girl. And now like being a medium now, I'm like, fuck, that was like again, the thing that you resist the most is the thing that you should be going after. And like
It's
I
so
was
true.
resisting it for so long. And Jay was like, babe, the torch is literally right in front of you. Like you are looking at every other torch that's
Hmm.
lighting up the room except the very bright one that's throwing off some heat in front of you. Like just grab that one and run with it.
Yeah.
And when I decided to do that, it was like it's now opening up torch
Hmm.
after torch after torch that I was like, I didn't even know these existed.
Yeah.
Like last week I did a breathwork session with my mentorship and it was very powerful. I felt like a lot of old, like masculine energy that was like super trapped in my body, like that left. And I'm like, where is this all tying into? And sure enough, I was shown like combining my mediumship with my holistic coaching that I've been
Hmm.
on and off doing for like the last 2 years. And it dawned on me, I was like, this is a fucking niche.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a niche girl, guys. I'm not a don't put me in a box. I've put myself in box after box after box. I'm like, don't put me in a box. But the fact that I can combine all of my knowledge and now combine it with the spiritual aspect of mediumship and just being able to help people in a much deeper way than just like contacting their loved ones. I feel like this is where we rip the band-aid off generational fucking trauma. Like
Hmm.
this is how we move past things. Like I had a person who came on one of my lives and she had a miscarriage recently. And so we were able to contact baby, we were able to contact family, and it was coming through to me after the fact. It was like because she had reached out for a session, and I'm like, I don't think I'm meant to be doing another mediumship session with her. Like, what is this about? And I had to sit with it, and it was like, this is where the holistic stuff comes in because there's
Hmm.
so much healing that goes around miscarriage. Because I was like, I don't feel like this was all yours. Like, I feel like this was generational of some sort. In terms of like like the processing and everything. And she's like, "Well, I'm the only girl grandchild and my I think it was her grandmother or one of someone on her maternal line had also had a miscarriage back in
Hmm.
the day." And I'm like, this is where the healing starts. Because like realistically, yeah,
Yeah.
you can have a miscarriage and not think anything twice about it, right? And then you can go on and get pregnant again. But there's so much trauma that comes with miscarriage, that comes with abortion that's not talked about, that we carry. Like our womb literally carries that until we process it. And that's
I even
too
want to take it
from
like a step further because I I mean, I have not had an abortion or a miscarriage, but I had that procedure done again last week
hmm
and I've been struggling since. So I had a colposcopy done, so they had to take biopsies off my cervix and then I think like scrape off
hmm
stuff. It was
Yep.
like so uncomfortable
Yeah.
and I just felt like I just didn't want to be there. I
hmm
felt almost, I mean, I'm just gonna say, but like I almost felt like violated. I
Yeah.
just, it was like uncomfortable and crampy, and it just kept on like, she's like, oh, I have to take a bigger biopsy. So she had to like do another one. And then it was like this other tool that felt terrible. And it was like
hmm
four scrapings. I was just like, oh my God. And ever since then, I've been experiencing depression and like, it was uncomfortable, but I was fine after like a day. But it was just the whole, I don't know. It was the whole part of it. It was like that
Yeah.
whole like I don't even know what to say about it, but it just totally triggered. I've been feeling so depressed. Like I'm in the
hmm
gray space. I can't, I'm like not happy. I'm not sad. I'm just kind of nothing. And I'm really exhausted. And it just like stinks. And I thought about it. I'm like, God, if this is just doing like a like routine prevention, like
hmm
exam, like not exam, but like procedure to try to help fix the problem. Um, then I can't imagine what the effects of an abortion or a miscarriage would feel like because holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've had both. I've had the
Yeah.
colposcopy. I've had the where they go in and they burn. Like, I've had the
Hmm.
colposcopy, and then I've had there's a second procedure that happens after the colposcopy where they go in and they like burn away the cells, like
Hmm.
cauterize it. That also makes me crawl out of my skin.
Yeah,
But
that's the best way to put it. Because after
yeah,
James like, are you okay? I was literally like,
you feel like yeah, you're
I was
shedding.
crawling out of my skin. I
Yeah.
was like crampy and uncomfortable, but it wasn't the pain. It was like I couldn't, I was, yeah,
I mean, your womb space was violated.
yeah.
Whether we want to talk about it that way or not, like your womb space was violated with tools that are foreign to it. Like,
Hmm.
and you're taking away cells, which are, I mean, in a way, it's healing, right?
Hmm.
Those cells are there for healing, but it's
It's
like
to
you have
die,
to,
it's to regenerate and try to have your
yeah,
immune system
yep.
like fix
And
all of it. But
yeah, and like you're stirring up that space, right? And same thing with an abortion, like you're stirring up the space, you're letting things go, but there's things that if you don't deal with it in the moment, that can linger, they can come back. Like, I mean, all that I went through in December, like to the date of like me having ovarian pain, it was like, yeah, it's been 4 years since you had your abortion. Like
mhm.
that's and like
Your
I
body
really
doesn't forget.
no, the body keeps score. And that's the thing, like people I feel like need to be more aware of like, yeah, if you're having pain and the same pain goes away and comes back and goes away and comes back, like ask that pain what it is. Be aware of what that is. And like for me, it's always been on my left side.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, clearly that's where I ovulated when I was pregnant. Like that's the left side is the maternal side. We're working on healing the mother. Like it all ties back because also like everything that I went through with that, I was like, this wasn't just mine. It was that same like intuitive feeling of like, this is not just mine. Like, this is my mom's, this is my grandmother's, this is like, because I don't know about my grandmother, but I know my mom had a miscarriage and my great grandmother had a stillborn.
Hmm.
So, like, it at least once runs down the line
The line. Yeah.
on my mom's side. Um, and this just it's not talked about. Like I didn't even know. I was like, I thought I had processed everything with my abortion and all the things. And like it was a pretty smooth process, but like I hadn't processed the emotional, I don't want to say baggage, but it feels like emotional baggage that was tied to the situation because it's trauma to the body. Like
Hmm.
trauma isn't just like a physical thing that happens to you. Like trauma is like so much more than that. It encompasses all of your senses. It can be mental, physical, emotional. Like it doesn't have to just be physical.
Yeah.
Um,
Jack's out.
and I think that's something that needs to be talked about more. Is like
Yeah.
trauma isn't just the physical aspect. It literally affects every single one of your bodies. Because fun fact,
Mhm.
guys, we have multiple bodies. We don't talk
We
about them
have
because
10
we have 10.
bodies, actually. There are energetic, there's physical, and there's mental. Um, yeah. Hold on, I have to let the dog out.
No, you're good. A brief intermission, one would say. Welcome to our life, guys.
This is real.
This is
So,
real.
one of the things within that, so in tantric philosophy, and I know I shared this with you before, so there is no discrimination, there is no difference between Mother Earth, the physical mother, and the like all-knowing mother.
Hmm.
So we can say for all intents and purposes, God,
Hmm.
goddess. Um, they're all the same. They're all one and the same. And so I've been noticing this like string of connection between that when I kind of heard that my purpose through core shamanism is to heal the mother. And that goes so deep on so many levels. And then in my Ayurveda class, we meditated into our sankalpa, which is our the like the whisper of our soul, the vow of our soul, what will be done because there is no other option
Hmm.
than for us to do it in this life. And what kept repeating was, I am home.
I love that.
And I was kind of journaling into it yesterday before I journeyed. And
She opened up the portal.
oh, hello. And it was there's no coincidence that I struggle with body image and I'm constantly like, not good enough. I need to fix this. Like, I don't feel at home in
Mhm.
my body. I always think it needs to be different. And then living the teachings of Ayurveda, like living the teachings of Kundalini, living the teachings of like all of the health knowledge that I have
Mhm.
and radiating it from the inside out. And then when I journeyed yesterday and I kind of went in just being like, my intention was basically like, what do I need to know right now?
Yeah.
And I went in and I received a message that my teacher told me to like kind of say and broadcast was, how do I put this kind of correctly? It was in no form of the mother does the mother expect payment back.
Hmm.
Mother Earth does not expect payment back. You don't need to pay to be within Mother Earth. The people who make you pay are the humans who think they own Mother Earth, but they don't.
Hmm.
So Mother Earth never expects a payback. When you give birth to your child, you're not like, you owe me for bringing you into this life. Like
Yeah.
that's never the truth of it. It can
No.
like become that like, whatever it might be, but
Yeah.
like I didn't give birth to my children to be like, okay, pay up.
Yeah.
Like you're incurring a debt because I brought you into this world. Like that was never a part of the
Yeah.
plan. So like humans are enforcing this price, this debt to be paid when the whole point of it is there is no price to be paid.
There is no debt to be paid.
No.
There's,
And my
yeah.
teacher told me to give as much as you can.
Mm,
to as many people as you can. Give knowledge, give love, just give. There's no price tag on it. That's the purpose, is
yeah.
to embody being the mother. And then I had a panic attack and I was sobbing later on. And I felt when I was just completely breaking down, I'm like, this isn't all mine. Like I felt like I was channeling the pain of the all-intensive purposes, the all-intensive from all sides mother, my own mother wounds that I hold, the wounds of Mother Earth, the wounds of just like the mother altogether. Because like we all think everything is like we treat everything as transactional, and it shouldn't be. It should just be this like fluid, like flow of love and like giving. And yes, there should be boundaries within that. Like, I
Right.
don't think people should just endlessly give, especially to others who abuse that. Um, but we were not put on this earth for this bullshit. And it becomes a fine balance of surviving and like keeping the lights on and also learning, expanding, and like actually being the person you were put on this earth to be.
Yeah, I feel like it's so funny as you were talking. I'm like, oh, this all hits so far home, especially after my little incident on the land on Saturday night. Um, because I could feel and like as you were saying that, I'm like, how do I tie into this? And it's like I've known this for a while and just been like kind of waiting for it to unfold of just like, why am I called to all these places? Why am I? Because for those of you that may or may not have known, I am a nomad. I'm on the road, currently in Arizona, but I've traveled to so many different places and I can feel the frequency of the land. Like I truly feel the thing that happened in Zion when I had that massive energetic purge.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I feel like that was partially mine, but I also felt like it was not mine at the
Yeah.
same time. Because I literally said after I left, I was like, I feel with the amount of people that were there that this was like me purging the frequency and like the anger and the like realistically it's all been around my solar plexus, which is all your self-worth and your confidence. And it's like we're not giving Mother Earth the love that she truly deserves and is worthy of. Like we trash Mother Earth. I can't tell you how many times I've gone places and I'm like, there's just trash everywhere. And I'm like, in what right mind do people think that that's okay? Where we can just go and just like, yeah, no problem. Like, let me just throw my napkin out. Let me just burn the shit and like leave it. Let me just break my alcohol bottles and leave them here for trash to just be sitting and blowing around. And it's like Mother Earth can feel that.
Hmm.
That's literally abusing the earth. It may not seem like that big of a thing in the moment when you're doing it because it's like, oh, I don't, whatever, you know? Like that is abusing Mother Earth. That is abusing the mother. Like
Hmm.
that all leads back to trauma. And like people wonder why these natural disasters are happening and things like that. It's like Mother Earth is like, hey, do you see me? Like, do you see what I can do?
Hmm.
Like, not for nothing, the whole wind thing. I'm like, she will fuck up your shit, for lack of a better term. But it's trying to get the attention of like, will you just fucking love me? Which I think just all goes back to like again our mother wounds of like, will you just love me without like having to. I mean, she gives literally all this beautiful land to us, all these beautiful landscapes, and it's like people actually don't care about that. And people who are sensitive to energies like me can feel that when I go places.
Hmm.
I can feel the frequency of the land. I can feel the frequency of the land with the people that either have inhabited there or are visiting there or whatever the case is. Like, it's intense. I'm not gonna lie. There's some places I've been to where I'm like, whoa. Like that place on Saturday night, I could feel on a deep level the sadness, the pain, the anger. Granted, these are all 3D emotions, if you will, but it's like how much can we expect mother to give us without like I don't know, and not that it's not in a transactional sense. It's just like take care of your shit.
Mhm.
Like you wouldn't just if something happened to your mom, like you wouldn't just like be like, whatever. She's on her way out, you know? And maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. But I know that if my mom was sick in some sort of way, I would be on my way back to Connecticut,
Mhm.
you know? Um, it's the same thing with the land. It's like she's literally holding us. Mother Earth is holding us. Without Mother Earth, we would not be here.
Yeah. I mean, it's the food, it's absolutely everything. It's a
Everything.
complete it's yeah. And that's where I feel like we're in a really interesting time. And it's just, I mean, even in my own self, talk about embodying, like I go to the dump and I'm like, how do we have so much trash?
Yeah. Yep. And that's just one
And
household. That's
that's
not
one
even like
household.
the
Now, times
entire
that by like
town.
millions. I mean,
Yeah.
when James and I went to New York City, the amount of trash that's just like on the side of the streets to be taken out because it was right after Christmas. We went the day after
Hmm.
Christmas. So everybody's boxes and like everybody's trash and all the wrapping paper and all that. It was just like lining the streets, bags upon bags and boxes on boxes. And it's just like, oh my God.
And where does that all go? Landfills. It just gets buried back into the earth or it gets
Yeah.
burned into the atmosphere of the earth. Like it's just, it's a perpetuating cycle. And I wish more people were aware of the impact that it has with just like, again, like being out here and being on BLM land and seeing people just treat it like, oh, it's free land. So kind of like if it's free, it's for me. That's kind of like the thought that comes to mind of just like I can just do whatever I want,
I
right?
think
Well,
people
if
do
I
that
like,
whether or not it's BLM or, or not. I'll go
yeah,
for a walk down the road and I can't tell you how many. I always think about this. There's so many nips that gets
oh yeah,
thrown on my street.
uh-huh.
I'm like, what are these people doing? Like, is everyone just like coming home from work and getting trashed on the way home? So like their husbands and wives
Yeah,
don't know that they're drinking? Like,
yeah,
why is
literally.
everyone shooting nips and throwing them out the window?
Or even just like beer bottles, beer cans, you name it. It's alcohol everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? Like like literally walking through Denver, just on the sidewalks. I'm like, what? And I mean, in Denver, it makes a little bit more sense because you know, there's a lot of different populations that live there. But it's so, I don't know. Yeah, the whole nip thing, just like, I'm like, what are y'all just like,
Alcohol is a whole other
that,
topic.
that is a whole other podcast episode that we will get to down the road. But for the sake of this one, we'll leave it at the nips of just like, again, yeah, like, oh, I can just throw this out the window so my wife doesn't find it. It's like, also, if that's you and you're listening to this, I'm straight up calling you out. Fucking throw your shit in a fucking trash can. Stop throwing it out the window.
Or stop hiding.
And also just stop hiding your authentic self. Like, do we need to go down the authentic self rabbit hole? Because I've been on it lately. Like, just be
Well,
your
that's
true
what this
self.
whole new moon is. This whole new moon in Aquarius, I kind of was reading like a snippet on it. Like, it's all about embodying your most authentic self
There you go.
and kind of like switching gears a little bit, but also on task here, like it's been super uncomfortable. And I started watching this show Severance on Apple, and
Okay.
basically the whole thing is you get a if you work for this company and you're on the severance floor, you get an implant in your brain. So you don't know, like when you go down to work, you are the work person. You don't remember who you are outside of work. And
Oh,
same thing works the other way.
wow.
And so I'm starting to catch a theme that like anyone who's done this is running away from something in their life and their self. So like the main character, you realize his wife died And that's why he got the surgery done. He like
Mhm.
cries in his car. That's the opening scene because he's crying over his dead wife. And then he goes into work and he goes down and he's like, why is this tissue in my thing? And so you realize all these people are running away from something.
Mm.
And it is incredible what we will do to escape our emotions. Recovering Capricorn,
I was gonna
front
say,
and center.
oh, I love when you out yourself.
Well, things are changing because my
You're
boyfriend's
just
always like, you said you didn't cry. I was like, if you told Lindsay or like about this, she would be like, who is this person? I
literally
cry
when
all the time. This man has like thawed
did
out my heart to the biggest level. I'm just like, I cry all the time, not in a bad way. I
it was
also
a
want to preface
waterfall
that.
all along. I knew it.
It's just like I have so many emotions and I let them come up.
It's like
Um,
Pandora's box. You like open the vault and you're like, oh my God, there's so much water, and you shove it shut.
I need a float. I need a float.
Like the fucking Titanic in here.
But it's like alcohol, right?
Yeah.
As two people who have used substance
Oh yeah.
to like, we're running away from something, run away from ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, XYZ, I mean, that going through my divorce, how I
Oh
started it
God.
was I got really good at making delicious margaritas. Margarita queen. My
That's
mango
how
strawberry margarita, bitch.
that's
And
how
then I was
every
like,
divorce starts.
oh, oh, you can either go down that road or you can turn your pain into your power, which I
Yeah.
quickly shifted, but it was going down that route. It could easily have gotten worse.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think about the year after my divorce and I was like, I'm gonna be fine.
Oh,
I
well, yeah,
just
same thing. After my divorce, I kept cycling between
yeah,
like over drinking and like
all the things.
overworking. And then it was just like, it was terrible. And then it's like, I need more serious help here.
Yeah.
And cue EMDR therapy, which like saved my life. But
Yeah. And I mean that really that whole thing just like totally encompasses and relates back to my little ghosty story from Saturday.
goose,
Because we've entered the ghost part of the chat.
thank God.
Because I feel like this all ties back in because there was so much alcohol like at my campsite. Like it was so for those of you that may or may not know, I am in Arizona and I camped on BLM land on Saturday night. And I rolled up to camp and I got out of my car and realized there was so much trash everywhere. Like it was basically it kind of looked like the dump. Like I'm not sure if it was just the one campsite that everyone dropped things at and just forgot about. I don't really know. But I took a little walk and it was like glass bottles, beer bottles, alcohol bottles, trash everywhere. You name it, it was there. And I was like so mortified at the, I was like, oh God, this is like so bad. I haven't been to a campsite like this in a long time. And later that night, I'm in my car, I'm doing mediumship readings, and I had called in all my spirits. Jay was with me, my grandma was with me, everything was fine. And all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of channeling and I start hearing this noise outside the backside of my car. And I was like, the hell is that? And everyone in my chat was like, are you good? I'm like, I don't know. Like, that was really loud. And like, there's no one else around. This shouldn't have happened. Um, Went back to my live. Everything was fine. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything else. I'm literally like going to sign off my live, and the noise happens again outside my car. And there was, again, no one else around. There's no reason why this particular noise should have happened. It was very much outside my car. It almost sounded like someone was banging on the backside of my car. And all that happened. I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, I don't know what's going on. I go to bed, wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning. It sounds like something's being dragged towards my vehicle. And then sounds like something crawls up into my wheel well and is like crawling around in the back underneath my feet, if you will, in my car. It would not go away. It just kept getting louder and louder and louder. Crawled up into my front seat, turned my car on, sound goes away. Doesn't bother me till the next morning. I get out of my car to go to the bathroom and I had this like gut feeling that I was going to find human bones. And I was like, there is no reason why I should have that. It was like a light bulb thought. You know, when they just like drop in and you're like, where the
That
hell
was
did that
weird.
just, that was weird. I don't know where that came from. And there's no such thing as coincidence. The fact that I was on the land that I was and I had that thought. I didn't find bones. However, I went back to my car and I realized there was three fingerprints on the outer frame of my driver's side door and my rear driver's side door. And I'm like, okay, I know it's dusty. I'm in the desert, but like I don't ever shut my car like that. Also, I would have all of my fingers, not just three. Like I wouldn't shut my door with three fingers. That just looks weird. Also, that's not how I shut my door. I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. Get in my car, have my past life regression session. I'm literally almost to the end of my session, and I hear the noise on the back of my car again. And it's broad daylight at this time. I'm like, okay, I understand at night, like little action, activity, things happen. To have it happen in broad daylight, I'm like, okay, again, nobody else is around. It's just me. Jenny heard it on our session. I was like, did you hear that? She was like, yeah, what was that? I'm like, it's probably just Jay. No problem. Like, whatever, Get out of my car after the session, and I go to open my rear driver's side door, and there is now a dirt handprint, very much a human handprint on the door. There is no reason why a dirt handprint should have been on my door. Also, it was to the left of my handle, and I was thinking about this last night because I did take a picture of it. It was, I think it was a left hand. Which, if I'm going to close, even if I was to close my rear driver's side door, I would have hit it with my right. Also, my
Hmm.
hands were not at all covered in dirt to the point where I could make out lines on the handprint. It wasn't just like, let me just like put this, it was like a fucking handprint. And I had a lot of fear come up Saturday night when I initially heard the noises, because I was like, there's no reason why this should be happening. Um, some fear came up when I was at camp initially on Sunday, and then I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And I was thinking about it afterwards because I was still in a trance state after my session. And I'm like, there's something deeper here. Like, I'm not seeing it. And I was like, what happened there? And I just started kind of pondering on it, and it immediately was murder and rape. Like, very clearly, very distinctly heard murder and rape. And I was like, oh,
Lovely.
lovely. That totally makes sense. And what I've gathered since then between journeying and what's come through and whatnot, what I've been told is that there has been a lot of activity in terms of drinking and date rape drugs that have happened on this property. Over time, we're talking like years and years. This wasn't just like a recent thing. And guys, fun fact, when that happens to the earth, um, if you can think about like if you were at an event and then all of a sudden you weren't there anymore and you were like no one was around and no one can hear you and no one can see you. How fucking scared would you be? I would be terrified. Like you just like end up you fall asleep and you wake up and you're not actually there. Like your meat suit is gone. You're just a spirit floating around.
And
And
those, like, when violent things happen
you
in
get stuck.
places,
Yep.
they get stuck. It leaves a stain. It leaves
Mm-hmm.
it leaves stuff behind. So
Yep.
like homes that have murders that have occurred, obviously land like where wars have been fought and a lot of people have died, like all that stuff leaves a mark.
Yeah, it does. And basically what I was getting was that this land where people have gone and they've been drinking and there's been date rape drugs and there's been people murdered and raped and murdered and burned, which is why I was getting the hit about the freaking bones. And when I asked about it, it was like, yes, I was picking up because my aura, that's the other thing. Like you've seen it happen where being a projector, my aura spans 30 feet out. That's a freaking lot. And
A
so I was
normal
picking up.
aura is usually 3 to 9 feet.
Yeah. So mine is three times that of which where my aura can span to. So I think was when I got spooked, I was like, whoa, like I felt it like overcome my body. It was just this enormous fear that was just like would not go away. And I was like, I literally was like, am I safe? Am I okay? I was picking up on the fear of the spirits that were around my car, and they were curious, which is why they're banging on my car and got handprints everywhere because it's like they realized that I
Someone can
can,
hear us.
yeah, someone can hear us, someone can maybe see us. Obviously, like I could see the handprints. I'm like curious, like if I was not awake, if I would have even tapped into that. Even the
Mm.
handprint of noticing, like, why is there a hand one
Well,
just
no, because
one
then your logical
random
brain would be
handprint?
like, no, that's like me at Alice Stream. I'm like, no, no.
Where's your rock?
My logical mind is like, no, but I'm like, oh, I know what
You,
occurred.
yep.
And I know what I know now, but no,
There's no way that that could have happened. Oh, there is.
no.
Stop that. But yeah,
It's really
so
like,
just to like go back, like it really made me kind of sit with like, okay, like these spirits are stuck there. And when you were talking about like what is the purpose of like what is my purpose with core shamanism, right? That like hit me out like a freight train because I was like, you brought up like, oh, you should go back and practice psychopomp there. And
mhm.
remember when I journeyed and we were in the lower world and I was like, I'm just like walking around and I'm traveling and everyone's like coming out of their houses waving at me,
Yeah,
saying hi, and now I'm like, oh, I get it.
yeah. I totally forget. What was your assignment?
For like my purpose
Yeah, of course,
was
shamanism.
essentially to take this with me on my travels.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, that when you were talking about it, it was like the light bulb went off. I was like, there it is, because
Hmm.
I'm now meant when all this starts unfolding, obviously, when we learn psychopomp and things like that, this is what I'm going to be doing.
Hmm.
I'm going to be traveling to places where, yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll be uncomfortable, maybe they won't, but I will be able to know if spirits are stuck there and to help them cross. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what was coming through. So I'm like, talk about a fucking assignment. Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, I think there's no
There's
coincidence
no
that like
coincidence.
your mediumship is taking off. And so it's like when you turn that light on, not only can you see out, they can see in. So it's like they're like, oh shit. Okay, like
Yeah.
she can hear us, she can see us. It's like
Yeah.
that's when you can help them out.
Yeah. And like, there's a piece of me, I'm like, I won't go back there till we learn
Yeah.
psychopomp because
Yeah.
just for my like own safety and my own like logical brain of like, no, like there's plenty of other places you can camp. You don't need to go back to somewhere where you didn't feel safe.
Hmm.
Because I literally was like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
This is I need to not be here anymore. And
Yeah.
they
I
weren't
was
aggressive. Like it wasn't like a obviously, yes, in the moment I was like, am I okay? She's like, you're fine. I'm like, okay. But realistically, it obviously propelled me into this new layer of healing where I'm like, okay, like, yeah, this is going to happen because this is what I signed up for. This is what I meant to do.
mhm.
Like, there's no coincidence that my mediumship started taking off when I got on the road,
Yeah.
that it's only accelerated since I've been on the road. It literally, I can take it with me everywhere I go. I don't know any other nomads who are mediums. If you're listening to this and you know someone, please send them my way because I really genuinely am curious if it's just me out here doing this or if there's other people that do
Doing the
this when
Lord's work.
yeah, just out here on the road doing the Lord's work, like just psychopomping at camp, NBD. What'd you do on
But
your
like it
Saturday
makes total
night?
sense.
It does. It totally does. Like the more that I open myself up to it, it's like the picture gets clearer and clearer and clearer.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there's a reason why I'm being asked to go to certain
Hmm.
places. There's a reason why I came back up here. There's a reason why I was drawn to that particular campsite. Like I was like, no, I'm going to camp along that road. There was other campsites I could have gone to.
Hmm.
Literally driving out that day, I was like, I don't remember seeing that one on the way in. I don't remember seeing that one on the way in. all those campsites were clean.
Yeah.
There was no trash, there was no negative, I don't even want to say negative energy, but just like, again, I can also feel things that are not there. That was awesome.
Mama kidding.
For those watching the video, just seeing Mama Kitty's head just pop out from behind yours when I said that.
I love it. I literally have Mama
That's
Kitty to just like
awesome.
run around. I've got Jack over here that I can't stop petting or else he's gonna move and
You're
be
gonna hear
annoying.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here we are. This is part of my mission. This is part of my purpose. This is not, I also feel called to put this out there. Like, this is not, one, it's not for the faint of heart to be doing these
Oh,
things.
dude, I was thinking about that last night. I was thinking about that last night, mid panic attack, because my therapist last week or like our last session, I think it was the day after I think it was the day after our shamanic class. And she's like, like it's okay if all this is too much. I'm like, it's not too much. It's just, if you're not like ready for it, I don't think you really understand the all of it. But like
Yeah.
I understand her concern and like giving the option, but it's like this is why this path is not for everybody. Like when I asked Michelle, is this part of my path? And she's like, you already know that answer. And I'm like, I know. I've been called to core shamanism for quite a while, and this is why it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not
That's,
easy.
it's not easy. It's been coming up a lot lately of like the path that I've taken. Like, all the things, literally all the things that I've chosen. I'm like, this is not for the faint of heart. I get people on my lives when I start talking about Jay, and they're like, oh my God, I want to find my twin flame. And I'm like, ah, cancel clear right now, please. Like, it is not what you think it is.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Like,
yeah, I I wouldn't take this any like I wouldn't go any other direction. Like this life is
no.
so beautiful and full of meaning and full of magic. But yeah, it's just so funny. Like even this morning I'm putting the kids on the bus and I'm like, okay guys, when you come home, I'm gonna be in my Ayurveda class. And Keston's like, you're doing a lot of things. I was
I'm in
like,
the
yeah,
school of life, son.
yeah.
This
And
is
he's
part of
like,
it.
but you're also a teacher, like a yoga teacher. I'm
Yeah.
like, yup. He's like, can you get paid for that? I was like, yeah. He's like, in the class you're in now, can you also get paid for that? I'm like, yeah, I mean, you could. He's like, and that other thing you're doing, like, he's like putting it all together, like for the core shamanism. And he's like, oh, wow, like you're doing so many things.
I think
And
it's
like,
so funny that he brought up, can you get paid for that?
yeah,
That
I
really
know,
stuck out to
right?
me. That really, like, that
It's
stuck
very
out.
interesting because he's going to therapy. He has therapy tonight too. And like, he gets really worried about money. And well, I know his father used to talk about money
Hmm.
all the time. And
Yep.
like sometimes I'll throw it out there, but I never do. And he'll be like, Mom, is that okay? I'm like, honey, we are fine. We are fine. And it's not for you to worry about. Like I make it a point to try to not like discuss that.
Yeah. But it's so interesting at the age that he's at to be worried on such a deep level and
Yeah.
have the scarcity of like,
Hmm.
we're never going to have enough. I'm curious, there's probably a past life that's probably tied to all that too. But
It's probably that or like he was paying more attention than
I mean, it's
a small
ingrained
child.
from when Dee was here, so it's like,
Yeah.
and
I
that
mean,
was, he was
they
even
didn't have money
younger.
for, I mean, they were going to different houses to take baths because there was no hot water. I was sending over food. I paid for Dee's cell phone bill one month because he couldn't pay for the phone, so at least I could be in contact with them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they lost that he lost a house.
Yeah.
And it's just like I can understand where all that fear stems from for him, but it's just like, oh, honey, come on.
Yeah.
It's
It's so
okay.
interesting that that's like the first thing he thought of like tying what you're learning and doing to money, but also to that being your job and it not just
Hmm.
being like something where, like I was saying earlier, of like, I'm doing this for me.
Hmm.
Even if I don't ever use it in my practice, I'm doing it for me. I'm
Hmm.
going to school and learning this for me.
Yeah.
That is like my core purpose of taking this course
Same.
because I want to see how this will develop me.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
not
always
looking
like, the
at it
other
as like
stuff
a
is such an
job.
added bonus. Like
It
when I
is.
do my yoga classes, it's all
Yep.
donation based. Like you don't have to pay a cent.
Yep.
I'm just happy to be here and happy to teach and happy to practice and share the knowledge. And I always get so stunned when I do get like payment. I'm like, oh my God, how did that even occur? Like I had so much fun. This was amazing. And
Yes.
it like blows my mind. But that's because I'm not there for that,
Yeah.
you
Because
know?
you're
And
serving from
it's,
your heart space. You're not
yeah.
serving because you gotta pay the bills. Like you're doing
Hmm.
it because it lights your soul up.
Yeah. And then I go to work every weekend and yeah.
And then I go to work every weekend and that's where
And
it
then I go
ends.
to work every weekend. Leave it right there.
But
Well, I
it's
think I
so
told you in my
so
past life
true.
regression, my nursing career is karmic.
Oh yeah, we did talk. Yeah, we did talk
And
about that.
like the past life that I got in contact with, like she was so deeply angry because she sacrificed her own happiness and well-being for taking care of other people. And I feel that very deeply in this lifetime too.
Yeah,
And it's like getting out of the karma of that. And my job's definitely tied to it.
yeah. It's so funny. I haven't gotten to tell you about my
No, I
session
haven't heard
yet.
I haven't heard a
Well,
thing.
you were in the rabbit hole, so I was like, I'm gonna wait till she pops her head up and then we can talk about it.
I pop my head up, I go to the upper world, and I get friggin' it's like whack-a-mole.
It's like
Whack.
whack-a-mole. Go back down. So, I'll tell you about the whole session after, but the last scene, right? So I'm at the end of my life, and uh, because otherwise it'll be a whole fucking long process of me telling the whole story. But I'm laying in my bed, my daughter's sitting next to me, and I have there's a couple of maids in the room. Now, mind you, I was back in my childhood home, and I was brought up poor and then we somehow became royal. Not really sure how all that happened. Um like royal, like Great Britain, like 1800s, if you
Okay.
will.
I was
That's
gonna
like
ask
set
what
the
the time
scene.
period was.
Yeah, it was about the 18, it was like eight somewhere in the 1800s, judging by everyone's clothes. But again, like it was, we started there and kind of bumped around, and then it was like, where did this start? I was super poor in the beginning. Because my initial thing was about around fears of money and success. That's what I
Hmm.
went into the session with. And my survival mode and my fear of being seen were like the secondary to that. So we move through all the scenes. We get to the last scene. I'm laying ill in my bed. It's like the last day moments of my life, if you will. There's a couple of maids in the room helping to take care of me, and my daughter's at my bedside holding my hand. And we move through all that. And we get to the next part where it's like, okay, now you're like out of, you've passed on, and this is, your afterlife. What are you seeing? And I'm like, well, I had like a bird's eye view of me laying in the bed and I saw all the things. And then Jenny asked me, okay, so are there anybody that you recognize in these scenes that you think you have soul contracts with in this life? Like, do they remind you of anybody in this life? I'm like, oh yeah. And she's got like the biggest smile on her face. And I'm like,
Tell me.
of all the things, I'm like, let's start with the maid. She's like, yep. I'm like, Dara. Tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more.
So she was the head maid. She was the head caregiver.
Sounds about right.
Yep. I was like, she had this very like gentle, caring demeanor. Like, do you need anything? Are you okay? But had like the leadership qualities of like, she was the head maid. Like everyone else was working with her, not like she was like working under someone else. And Jenny just goes, well, that sounds very much like Dara. She goes, I was waiting for you to put the connection together. I'm like, That's
God, when do I get to be the
wild.
queen who doesn't give a fuck about anyone else? Because that's what happened in my
Literally.
life too, and it's so annoying. Can somebody take care of me, for fuck's
Yeah.
sake?
Well, and that was the thing. I just was like giggling because I'm like,
She still
why is
hasn't
it?
learned.
Yeah, I'm like, she
I
still
guess I
hasn't
still
learned her
haven't learned.
lesson.
I'm still
I'm like,
here.
I'm watching this play out in this life, and I'm like,
Oh,
also, it's
God.
just so funny to me that like we were both nurses. I'm like, I'm curious where my like karma, if you will, stems from with that whole situation because I'm like, I know it's there. But I was royal and had a lot of money in that life. So it
Dude,
was funny.
in
Oh,
my
sorry.
past life regression, I died alone in a twin bed. The last scene is like me just looking at my dead body. I was like 54. 54 is the number. I
Yep.
was 54. I'm
Yep.
just like in the bed, like holding my chest. Like I had either a stroke or a heart
Or
attack
heart
as I was
attack.
getting. It
Yeah.
was like very quick. I was
Yep.
alone in a twin bed and nobody found my dead body for days. So I'm just like looking at my dead fucking body. Good thing I'm a hospice nurse and I'm
Thank
used to dead
God.
bodies. They don't perturb me. And I'm just like, and then I go up top, I go upstairs, and I'm there with my teacher, and he's like, okay, time to play the fun game of MASH. We're like playing MASH, and that's what this life is. This life is MASH.
This life is MASH.
It's my fun time.
Yep.
He's like,
Oh
you had
my
to close out
God.
karma, the whole Derek stuff. That was all karma. So like you got it done early.
Thank God. Oh
And
my
now it's time
God.
to have fun. I'm like, okay. I
I
just need to
guess
quit
if
my
you
job.
say so.
If you say so, I gotta quit my nursing job. God damn. We all know that, but that became very apparent. It's like your job is karmic.
Yeah.
And it
You have a choice. I mean,
apparently more karmic than I understand.
yeah. I mean, well, yeah, clearly. I mean,
If you're
I
getting
was
hit in your friggin'
laughing.
past lives, good
Yeah. And like, we're
God.
talking like 1800s, like
Yeah, mine was in like the
maybe early
40s.
19, maybe early 1900s. So like,
Yeah.
it spirals on through and it was so I can't wait to tell you more about it, but it was so interesting to see all of the ties that that one lifetime had to my lifetime now.
Hmm.
That I think to me was like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Absolutely mind blowing.
It
Like
is super mind blowing.
it's the soul contracts, it's the way that things have played out, the themes
Hmm.
from that lifetime and how they've played out so heavily in this lifetime. I was like, holy shit. This is
Yep.
like
Well,
literally
like in
just
my
like a
past lifetime, I wanted to move to a city. This lifetime, I wanted to move to a city, and then I didn't because I got married. And in that
Mhm.
lifetime, it was because I was taking care of a man. Like I think it was my dad or my uncle or something. But
Yeah,
it's just like the same shit.
just keeps playing out.
I
It just
know.
continues to play out until you put a stop to it. And I mean, that's the beauty of the work that we do,
Yeah.
right? Like the fact that we can sit here
Well, the fact that we know
and we
now it's
know,
like
yeah,
shown. So it's
it's
like, okay,
shown.
you can make different choices.
Yeah. And it's not just swept under the rug. It's not just, oh, yeah, that happened in a past life. It's like, no, I saw what happened in the past life and now I get to make the choice to make a difference.
Yeah.
Because you can let the same cycles perpetuate. I mean, it was the same thing when I was married to Zach. Like I could
Hmm.
have let that cycle. It's so interesting. I was reading um I was on my live last night. I was called to share a passage of my second book that's not released. And it like hit me. I was like, I literally like because I was the passage was talking about it was part of like a lesson that I learned with John. And but I in the passage was talking about like had I not met you, I would probably still be in the same position. I probably would not be here writing this book. I'd probably be still on the fucking merry-go-round of marriage that was literally circling the drain forever. And I was just like, no, let me just keep it afloat. The, let me just pump up the life raft one more
That has a
time.
hole in
Like,
it.
it literally has a hole in it. It's like, just let it go. Just let it
Yeah.
go. And I'm so glad I did because that was my own karma, right?
Yeah.
Right then and there was my own karma. And it's just crazy that all the things that I mean they're all to me it's like yeah they're past lives they're all parallel.
Yeah.
I'm like literally all those themes in that
Still
lifetime
apply.
still apply.
Yeah.
The only difference is I'm aware of them now. I was not aware of them then.
Yeah.
That's literally the only thing. And something I said to my friend yesterday was like, when I initially had when Chris read my cards about John and everything, it was like your purpose in this life, you came here to spiritually evolve. And I
Hmm.
didn't know at the time what that meant. She was like giving me all my gift, like telling me like what my gifts are. I'm like, I don't even know what half those are.
Well, yeah, it's like you won't. I think about back when I was like back in 2020 when I started this journey, and I
Hmm.
was like, I could feel the person I am now.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I want to get there. I want to get there. But I'm like, you will not get there until you're fully ready because you will literally implode if like you upgraded, you didn't have the space to hold that person.
Yeah,
Like
you have to make the space.
you have to make the space. You have to like it's one step at a time. It's one step forward, three steps back. Like
Yeah,
it's not linear and
yeah,
it's a lot of lessons, a lot of tying things off, a lot of shifting, and like all that takes time.
yeah. And I think too, like when like that's when a lot of I feel like spiritual psychosis happens is when like you kind of go in and then you open up to a whole new world. And it's like when people take 13 tabs of acid
Or like when people have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings,
or that. Yeah.
like when I started going down the Kundalini hole and it was calling me and I was like, what is this? It was like
Hmm.
somebody was telling me to do something and I was like, I've never even like I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, you didn't
And
even.
nowhere can you really find anything on it. It's starting to become more a part of the conversation. But like I found some fucking documentary on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime or something. And I was at work in the psych in the psych unit at night watching this documentary and it was like on people who've had spontaneous on like what Kundalini energy is and people who've had spontaneous awakenings because people think that they're crazy.
Yeah.
Because it was like they got into a car accident or like something happened with their spine
Yep.
and it awakened that energy.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was very interesting. And now I'm glad it's starting to become part of like the dialogue because it's very hard to find. But it's
Yeah,
also
it
niche because
is.
like if you start it and you're not totally ready for it, I always tell my students, I'm like, you can text me, you can like, oh, I'm always here for you. You're not like, if you want to talk about what's coming up, I'm
Yeah.
here
It'll
because it
stir
can
the
be
fucking pot.
yeah, it can be such a lonely road.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm like so glad that I'm on this path with it now because I'm like, you saw me go through my Kundalini awakening, and I've had several instances
Yeah.
since where I'm just like, okay, like, and I asked, I can't remember if we were with Michelle or if I asked someone else this recently, but I was like, can you have multiple Kundalini awakenings? And they're like, well, I think it comes in, I feel that it comes in layers. And I was like, oh, that makes sense because yeah, if you have that spontaneous awakening and you've never had an awakening before, I cannot imagine how frightening that would be.
Yeah.
Like, I think back to even just that moment of being in the witch room with you and that whole thing happening. If I was not awake to that point, that I would have ended up in the psych pod.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that the snake of energy goes through all your
Hmm.
energy centers, your chakras.
Yeah.
And if one is not fully open, it can't really move past it.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can have multiple awakenings or stirrings or inflection points because when you get through an energy center in a new way,
Hmm.
like that can stir something new for you. I don't know if awakening would be,
I don't feel like it's
I don't think that's the right term. I think it's more of
no.
like,
It's almost like it's like it comes in phases, if you
yeah.
will. Like because there's layers, right? There's layers to everything. And it just makes me think back to I had the first one when I was with you. And then remember when I was in Denver and I said, oh, I think I had another Kundalini awakening last night. I wish you and
Hmm.
Hattie Girl were here. And like that obviously was not as intense and did not last as long, but I was also grieving at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm looking back now and I'm like, oh, I was blasting through my root chakra again because it was all in my like low back.
Hmm.
I could like feel it in my low back. I was like, oh my God, this is another one of the those times.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. I was like writhing on the floor for like a solid hour of just like kicking, screaming, crying, so uncomfortable. I felt like someone was just like in my root chakra was just like, yeah, we're just gonna stir the pot
We're
on
gonna
that
make some
one.
meatballs.
We're just gonna make some meatballs and and just like it was another layer because
Yeah.
like at that point it was like grief will blow you on
Ugh,
your ass into
the worst.
the worst thing, and I had to like rebuild my foundation from there.
Yeah.
And so all these things that have happened, they all relate, but it was like that was the closest thing I had felt ever since that initial awakening where I was like, what? I just opened up the Rainbow Bridge. Like,
Yeah. We love
because
the Rainbow
Christ,
Bridge.
like Christ consciousness was coming through, and I'm like, I had heard people talk about it, but I was like, I don't know what any of this shit means.
Yeah.
And then
You
I
don't know it until you feel it. Once you feel it, you know.
you're like, oh, that's what they mean. Oh,
Yes.
this is what they mean by a
This
Kundalini
is it.
awakening. I'm always like, I wonder what that feels like.
Surprise.
Feels like you're dying.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Well, on that note, we should probably end here. I gotta head out for my next
Yes.
event of the day. But it's been super fun, guys. Thank you for joining, and we will see you next time on the DL.
Have a
Bye,
great week,
guys.
y'all.